Hello everyone, John Stucky with Trendsoft. Today we're talking about an underutilized feature in Dynamics NAV called cost accounting. And with cost accounting, we're going to show you how you can track things like non-financial unit accounts, dynamically allocate costs across your organization using those unit accounts or traditional financial measures, and how to budget and report on that data and manage the allocations. So I've got a couple of quick slides to show you the overviews of the features, and then we're going to dive into the application, and I'll show you how to set up and utilize Dynamics NAV cost accounting. So first, as we mentioned, this can enable you to track non-financial accounts and unit accounts such as square footage and FTEs. Next, it enables automatic cost allocations using either those non-financial accounts or your traditional financial accounts from your general ledger. You can allocate costs to groups, they're called cost objects in NAV, that are not in your chart of accounts, such as locations or product lines or geographies or other groups. You can allocate costs actually based on product unit sales. So a couple of nice dynamic allocation methods here where you can actually allocate across product line based on item or product shipments. It provides detailed financial reporting on these that is separate from your financial trial balance, so that's nice. The cost accounting stuff does not cloud or clutter your traditional financial general ledger. And you can have budget tracking to track specific costs for these cost measures. So let's talk about each of these quickly. You can track items with unit accounts to be used as a basis for the cost allocations. There are unlimited types and values of this, so you can create as many of these as you want and in as much detail as you would like. You can track by any existing dimension, project, department, or any other that you've set up and are using today in NAV, and the unit accounts do not have to be tied to a dimension at all. Some examples are square footage, full-time equivalents or FTEs, and things that maybe help measure capacity, such as bed or room count, or number of physicians, or events, or performances, whatever that might be. One of the core features of the system is the allocation process, or allocations. It will automatically accumulate costs from your general ledger. You can allocate based on multiple factors and multiple levels, and you can control the levels. I believe you can have up to 99 allocation levels. You can allocate across dimensions, accounts, objects, and more. And you can allocate, as we mentioned before, based on actual unit shipments. All right. Let's take a look at the system at this point and what's going on. This functionality was introduced in NAV 2013. Here we see NAV, and the functionality is found under Financial Management, and there's a separate area now called Cost Accounting. And if we go into Cost Accounting, that's where we can find the setup of our cost accounting system, where we can create the measures and then we can create the allocations and the objects. Now, quickly, what are these? Well, there's three cost types here, cost measures that you'll need to manage. First is cost types. The chart of accounts cost types is very similar to your accounts from the general ledger. This is used to parallel your accounts from general ledger. It does not have to, and you can have accounts in here that you don't have in the general ledger, and that's how we use unit accounts. One of the easiest ways to set it up or get started is to set up the same accounts that you have in your GL, and the system will enable you to synchronize that data so that transactions that post in your financial general ledger will automatically come into this one. But notice as we scroll to the bottom, we do have accounts that do not exist in our financial general ledger. Specifically, I have some of my targets, which represent where I'm allocating costs to. When we create an allocation, we're allocating and making the debit entry into these allocated overhead type accounts. Now, you can also make the entries into the account that it originated in, such as utilities maybe, and allocate back into utilities, or you can take your utility cost, leave that debit, and then turn around and add a debit to the allocated account. And then finally, you can see at the bottom, and we've prefaced these with a Z just so they stay together, but here we have non-financial accounts such as FTEs and square footage. So that's the first item, is the cost types. Next are cost centers, and cost centers are typically set up to parallel and be synchronized with your dimensions, be it departments, projects, and any other dimensions that you may use in the system. And finally, there's cost objects, and cost objects are used to set up and represent items that are not already represented in your financial general ledger. So this might be product lines or regions or some other type of measure that you want to allocate or see costs accumulated by, but it's not set up and currently being used in your general ledger. So cost objects actually give you another mechanism to create these entities and accumulate costs by these entities. So once those are set up, the next step is to create your allocations. Here we have several allocations set up, and as you can see, all of this data is available to you in Cronus in the sample database, so you can use this and see it and experiment with it. What we do is, as we capture costs in the financial system, those costs transfer over automatically, right, into our cost types. And then I can set up an allocation system here that will help me allocate those costs. Now what I have here is a dynamic allocation that will allocate my utilities expenses into my two dimensions, my two departments, based on each department's share of square footage. Now here's how that works quickly. On this allocation screen, first, the costs that I want to allocate are located in the cost type range at the top. And notice when we drill down on 652 there, that represents my GL account that accumulates my utility expenses, and that's electricity and heating there. So the system is going to look at the total that we've spent on utilities, and it's going to allocate that into a new account. Now the way I've set this one up is my allocation will hit a new account, allocation of initial cost center. I'm going to create a new account schedule that will include that, and the result of my allocation is going to be to debit this account for the allocation, for the calculation. And I'm going to debit it and break it down between administration and production. And then I'm going to break that down based on cost type entries and their square footage, right? And what we'll see here is that the system will automatically calculate my percentages. And notice that my administration has 10,000 square feet and my production has 20,000 square feet. The system, when I calculate my allocation basis here, will automatically keep up with each share and the percentage. And these allocation bases can be calculated every period, every month, automatically in the system. We can go see those bases if we go back out into cost types and scroll down and look at square footage numbers there. Notice that we can see the square footage total of 36,000, and when I drill down into it, I can see the breakdown here by cost center. Cost center or unit account entries, again, they're different than financial account entries, and in cost accounting I have the ability to enter those directly in a cost journal, in a special journal. So to make the unit account entries, all I do is go into my cost journal, simply enter the amount of square footage for that period or accumulate it, post that entry stays within my cost system. This does not hit my financial general ledger, and then it's available to me for the cost allocation to create my basis, the dynamic percentage basis that will be used to allocate costs. When it's time to run my allocation, that's found under periodic activities, financial management, periodic activities, cost accounting. Here I can see I can transfer or be sure that all my costs from general ledger are current into CA or cost accounting. I can then calculate my allocation bases, all of them together. From the allocation screen itself that I showed you, we can calculate them one at a time to be sure they are calculating correctly. And then I can simply hit allocate costs. This will enable me to choose which cost levels, remember it's up to 99, what my effective date is. I say OK, and it will automatically create and post those allocation entries for me. It will accumulate the total expense, it will break that expense down based on those percentages, and then it will make the entry to charge that expense into that account I told it to put the account in. The last step then is to do some reporting on that, and under cost accounting we have an account schedule area. This is just like the financial account schedule area. Notice the difference though, when I go into to edit it, I have the ability in addition to choose cost types. If I choose posting accounts, that will pull data from my financial general ledger. If I choose cost type, that will pull data and accounts from my cost type, my cost ledger data, if you will. And they're not the same. Those are two separate things. It's the same account schedule, you just have a new type now. You can actually choose cost types. And once you choose cost types, your totaling and your lookup areas here will reference the cost entries. So that's a quick overview. There's a lot of functionality in the cost accounting module for Dynamics NAV. I think it's one of the more underutilized features of NAV and provides a good, rich feature set for you to help analyze costs for your organization. So if you have any questions about that, or we can be helping in any way, or you'd like a little bit deeper dive into this functionality, give us a ring and let us know. If you'd like that slide deck, I'll be happy to share that with you as well. Thanks for watching.